Okay, so in this video, I'm going to review some concepts in algebra that we're going to be using in geometry this year. What is an algebraic term? Well, an algebraic term is any number or variable. So examples could include 2x, or even the multiplication of numbers and variables, 2x. So these are terms. Terms are separated by plus or minuses. So if I had 2x plus y, this is no longer a term. This is an expression with two terms. So the terms are just numbers or variables, or the multiplication of numbers to variables. Once you add plus or minuses, you now have multiple terms. So the next question asks, what are like terms? Well, we want to know what like terms are so we know which ones we can combine and add together. So a like term is a term with the same variable and exponent. So this means that examples of like terms would be 2x and let's say negative 3x. Those are like terms because they both have x, and both x's have no exponent on them. And if there's no exponent, it's understood that the exponent is 1. So the exponents are matching. Another example of like terms could be y squared and 7y squared. So they both contain the same variable, and the variable has the same exponent. They both have exponents of 2. Like terms could be 3 and 11. They're both constants with no variable. So that means if there's no variable, it has an exponent of 0 on the variable, which is why we don't see it. And when you have like terms, you can add them together or subtract them. You can combine their coefficients. So when you identify like terms, you can group them together by combining their coefficients. So for example, if I had 5x plus 7x, this is equal to 12x. Because they are like terms, I can combine their coefficients of 5 and 7. So here's some practice. You can pause the video here, answer these 4 problems on your own, and then unpause to see how you did. Number 1, I see they both are x terms to the first exponent, so they are matching. I can combine their coefficients of 3 and 7, so 3 plus 7 gives me 10x. In the second problem, we can see that they are like terms because they both have the variable x squared. So we can take the coefficient of 7 and minus 5 and combine them. 7 minus 5 is 2. And then we put that variable with the exponent there, and that's our answer, 2x squared. In number 3, we have a 5x and a 3x. We can combine those. 5 plus 3 is 8x. But then we see we have a 6y squared and a minus 7y. These are not like terms. And because their exponents don't match, we can't combine them. And we would just leave this as plus 6y squared minus 7y. And that would be our final answer. Number 4 introduces us to the distributive property. That minus must be distributed through the parenthesis that follows it. So now we can drop the parentheses, and we see we have 3x plus 5. Now the minus gets attached to the 8 for a minus 8, and then it gets distributed to the 2x for a minus 2x. So we distributed the minus through that second parenthesis. And now we see we have like terms of 3x and minus 2x. That gives us 1x. And we have like terms of constants with no variables next to them at all. So 5 minus 8 is minus 3. And those are your answers for these 4 problems. So next we want to look at the distributive property with a little more detail. And we see up in the top here, the distributive property shows us how to multiply through a set of parentheses. And you see they're taking this 2 and they're distributing it over both variables, and we get 2x plus 2y. So we can do that here with number 1. We can take this 3x and distribute it over both variables. So we have 3x times 2x, and then there's a minus in between, so minus and then 3x times 7. And now we can do the multiplication of these terms. So 3 times 2 is 6, and x times x is x squared. Bring our minus down. 3 times 7 is 21. There's no x on the 7, so it's just 21x. And that would be our answer to number 1. So pause the video, try number 2, and see how you do with that one. So we're going to take this 5x squared. We're going to multiply it by 4x. We see there's a minus in between the terms, and then the 5x squared times x squared. And now we can say 5 times 4 is 20, and x squared times x is x to the third. Bring down our minus. 5 times, there's a 1 in front of this x squared, so 5 times 1 is 5. And x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. So this next one, we have what are called multiplying binomials together. Binomial means you have two-term expression. So now we have two binomials. So with the two binomials, we're going to take this first x and multiply it by the parenthesis. So that gives us x times x minus 3. And then we take this plus 1 and multiply it by the parenthesis. So plus 1 times x minus 3. And now we can distribute this x through just like we did in problems 1 and 2. So that gives us x squared minus 3x. And then we can distribute this 1 through plus x minus 3. And we see we have like terms in the middle here. They both have x's with the same exponents. So this becomes x squared minus 3x, and plus 1x is minus 2x. And then we have a minus 3. This is our answer to problem number 3. So you can pause the video and try problem number 4 on your own and see how you do, and then unpause to see it worked out. So we're going to start by taking this x squared and distributing it to the parentheses. So x squared times x cubed plus 5. And then we take this plus 1 and distribute it to the parentheses. Plus 1 times x cubed plus 5. And just to show you that this x squared plus 1 makes up this entire first parenthesis. That's the connection we should see. Now we're going to multiply x squared through the parenthesis. This is the second level of distributive property. First, we distributed it to 2 parts. Now we're going to multiply in the parentheses. So we see x squared times x cubed. And then we have plus x squared times 5. And then we have plus 1 times x cubed. And then we have plus 1 times 5. And now when we simplify this, x cubed times x squared is x to the 5th. 5 times x squared is 5x squared. 1 times x cubed is x cubed. And 1 times 5 is 5. Notice there are no like terms, so there's nothing to combine. There's your answer. Now, the only other step that I would recommend is putting the exponents in order. So see how this is x to the 5th? We should go from highest exponent to lowest. So this is known as standard form, x to the 5th. I'm going to move this next because that's the next highest exponent, x to the 3rd. And then comes 5x squared, and then plus 5. We like to write it this way because it will help us later in algebra with steps that involve factoring. If we have these polynomials ordered like this, we'll be able to apply certain strategies to them for when we have to factor them out. But for now, we're multiplying, combining like terms, and this extra step is just to order it from highest exponent to lowest. All right, so this page is mixed practice from all of the different topics we discussed in this video. You can pause here, try the problems out on your own, unpause to see the answers worked out. So we'll distribute with this first one. So we see 3 times 5 is 15. X squared times x is x to the third. And now I can multiply 3x squared by negative 11. That gives me minus 33x squared. And that's your answer to the first one. This second one is not distributive property. This is a subtraction problem. So we only want to distribute the minus. We're not multiplying the two parentheses together like we did with other examples. This is saying 8x squared plus y. Now we're going to distribute the minus and have minus 3y. Distribute the minus and have minus 4x squared. And we see we have like terms of x squareds. So 8x squared minus 4x squared is 4x squared. And we have like terms of y's. 1y minus 3y is negative 2y. So here's your answer to the second one. Problem 3 is distributive property. So we'll distribute the x through the parentheses. And then we'll distribute the minus 7 through the parentheses. And now our second layer of distributive property, x squared plus 12x minus 7x minus 84. And when we combine our like terms, we see the 12x and the 7x combine to give us x squared plus 5x minus 84. And this would be our final answer for number 3. We'll do this again, distributive property, 3x times the parentheses 7x minus 2, and then plus 5 times that parenthesis of 7x minus 2. And now we can do the second layer of distributive property. And once we've done that, we look for our like terms. We see that negative 6x and plus 35x have the same variable with the same exponent. So our final answer for number 4 is 21x squared plus 29x minus 10. Number 5, we'll distribute our 4x with the parentheses. And then we'll distribute our minus 3 through the parenthesis. Second layer of distributive property gives us 16x squared plus 12x. When we distribute this minus 3, we get minus 12x and minus 9. And we see our like terms of plus 12x and minus 12x cancel each other out. And we're left with 16x squared minus 9. And for our last problem, 9x times 4y minus 2x plus y times 4y minus 2x. When we do our second layer of distributive property, 36xy, notice it's two different variables, minus 18x squared, they have the same variable, plus 4y squared minus 2xy. The only like term is the 36xy and the minus 2xy. This gives us 34xy minus 18x squared plus 4y squared. And there's our final answer for number 6. So this is the end of this video. You can go back, rewatch it, follow along with the practice problems, and come to class with questions.